Surely. It's an incomp. Surely. It looks good. No! Only one! Why did it have to go high? Look at that. Look at that dispersion. That's like... What do you mean, battle cruiser? And then we're going to get this absolutely filthy salvo against Bremen. Sap overmatched this poor guy. Although maybe with Bremen, maybe that's okay. Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Tempesta Nera. This, of course, is a Lauria clone you can earn for free in this new Lunar New Year's event. It's going to take a lot of grinding, but you don't need to spend any steel for it. Sap, pretty good against submarines, as we all know. This event, Lunar New Year's, will actually span 2 whole updates, 15.1 and 15.2. So you'll have a full 2 updates to complete all of these combat missions, which will net you 40,000 of these tokens for this event. The Tempesta Nera, Lauria, is going to cost you 42,000 tokens. And after looking more at these combat missions, especially given their nature where you don't have to do them in order, you can do them in any order as long as it's within each week. You have to do the weeks sequentially, but within each week, it doesn't matter. They're all progressing at the same time, which I absolutely love. That is a game changer when it comes to grinding out this event. For most people, you should be able to get 20, 30,000 of these tokens, and at that point, this ship you can top up for coal at the very end. Highly recommend you watch my update overview video for 15.1 if you haven't already. I go into much more detail there, but safe to say, this is a pretty solid event. Even if it is just copy-paste ships that we've already seen, there are some legitimate reasons to be excited here. Whether you don't have any steel, you don't have a great way of grinding through to get steel, since you pretty much have to be playing a lot of clan battles at a higher level to reliably gain that resource rather quickly, you have the option to gain one of these steel ships. I think that's really awesome. There are also some premium versions of tech tree ships that are going to allow us to swap over commanders completely for free. This is a very nice bonus. And if these combat instructions are as friendly as they seem, I think most people, if you're playing somewhat regularly, not hardcore grinding 6 hours a day, you should be getting a solid amount of these tokens to actually engage with this event, which is really nice. Now, we should talk more about Lauria, as if you already have it with steel, it sucks that this camo isn't just available to you. You're probably going to go with a different one if you already have this ship. Not worth getting a copy, I don't think. It's already a premium. You can already swap Sansonetti over to your regular Lauria at that point. Maybe go for something like the Petro or the Schlieffen. But for those of you that don't have Lauria, what is this ship all about? Well, you get 457mm sap shells. This is the highest caliber in the game. Colombo, at least when it comes to sap. Colombo, remember, has 381mm of sap. That means that if you have 27mm of armor on your ship, which a lot of cruisers do, certainly battleships do, you can, in theory, angle to it. In practice, SAP has such absurd pen angles that it doesn't really matter. But now that we have 457mm, we suddenly can overmatch 30mm of armor. So poor cruisers can't really angle to this at all unless they have greater than 30mm of armor. This ship also gets battle cruiser dispersion. Yes, we're seeing some absolutely incredible consistency out of this ship in comparison to a lot of other 8-gun ships. Colombo, however, makes up for its inconsistent Battleship 1.6 Sigma dispersion with just pure volume of fire, as well as a legendary mod that makes it much more accurate. We don't have access to that here on Lauria, and that 1.8 Sigma, it can troll from time to time, okay? Not every match is going to look as good as this one I am showing you here. This is kind of a best case example. Lauria is an absolute monster on a flank. Excellent concealment allows it to dictate a lot of these engagements. We can easily go dark whenever we want to here, thanks to our speed being so absurdly high and the concealment being so good as well. But I want to take this engagement. Yamato, sure, he overmatches 32mm of armor, but I'll show you Lauria's armor towards the end of this video. Safe to say, deck armor like 150mm here, at least on the stern section. Some very tanky ship. Very small superstructure here, especially when in a kited position like this. It's crazy how well armored this ship actually is. We're still taking some hits here and there. Given the size of the Citadel, though, it's very nice to have that extra armor. This is one of the largest Citadels in the entire game. If you get caught broadside, you will take massive damage. Worth swapping over to the armor piercing when you get broadsides. There's that 1.8 Sigma trolling us from time to time. Battlecruiser dispersion is quite accurate. 1.8 Sigma means that it's not always the most consistent. We do get the Citadel still, and just look at how much damage we racked up so quickly here on this flank. Lauria is incredible at stalling out an enemy's push. Trying to push in with Lauria, it's harder, okay? It is a lot harder. We do at least have some reasonable firing angles here, 30 degrees forward, 30 degrees backwards, but we do not get the smoke screen that we see on a lot of other Italian ships, unfortunately. Yes, we're fast, but we have one of the worst turning radiuses in the entire game. We actually have 1,000 meters, a full kilometer turning circle radius. That's horrible. Alongside a 17-second rudder, makes for a not very maneuverable ship. It is fast though, so you're gonna notice me doing a lot of speed juking. I'm gonna set my angle at that 30 degrees where we can fire all of our guns, and then we're just gonna speed up and slow down. Since we have such a small superstructure, and really the vulnerable part of this ship is that middle section, there's a lot of shot catchers there, then we're trying to just throw off their aim. If the Yamato hits us towards the bow or towards the stern, us accelerating or slowing down will do that. He's not going to be getting that much damage in. Well, meanwhile, we're going to get tons of consistency out of this sap. Remember, sap does not care about your angling really here. 70 to 80 degree pen angles. The overmatch of it is a gimmick, okay? It is not as valuable as it sounds on paper, okay? SAP already just doesn't care about your angle for the most part. We do get 114 millimeters of SAP pen, though, and that is going to allow us to pen through some more cruiser citadels. Assuming there's not spaced armor, there's a couple more that you can actually get through here, not just things like Smolensk, for example. We didn't get any examples out here, unfortunately, but this was just a perfect example of how good Lauria is on a flank. We already have like 1.6 million potential damage. It's a tier 10 battleship that has a very exposed citadel and only 83k HP, some terrible maneuverability when it comes to the rudder and that turning circle radius. Yet it's surprisingly tanky when it's on a flank like this one, and it can stall out that push and dictate the distance of the engagement using its concealment in that. Trying to push is a very different story, as this ship will take a lot of damage and it cannot get out of a bad situation. No get out of jail free smoke card here, unfortunately. It's actually a good thing that it doesn't have that, otherwise it'd be even more insane. But you want to be finding these flanks, okay? Now that we've already cleaned up most of this flank, our team has solidified our advantage over on the A and B caps. It's time to get back into the fight. And thanks to our like 36 knots of speed here, we're able to easily get back into this engagement. It's 35 base, goes up a little bit more with speed flag. Certainly running something like Brisk would be very good on a ship like Lauria. However, I find myself preferring things like Turret Traverse. Brisk tends to get me into trouble faster, and it will not help me get out of trouble, right? It only applies when you're undetected, of course. We're swapping over to the armor piercing here towards the end of this video. When you have the chance or the likelihood of getting a citadel is high, then it is maybe worth swapping to that armor piercing. Or when the SAP just can't get through the belt armor of a ship, right? German battleships, Soviet battleships have very thick upper belt armor, and the SAP won't be able to full pen there. It's going to shatter. Then it's worth swapping over to the armor piercing. The Citadel thing is only because the AP has lower alpha damage than the SAP. We get 14,900 alpha here, 457s, pretty high alpha damage. But the SAP is at 16,600 alpha damage. So a full pen doing consistent 33% damage, well, you're getting more out of your SAP. That's why it's just so much better to spam the SAP, regardless of the pen angles or anything. Even if the pen angles were the same as AP, you'd probably still be shooting the SAP if you don't think you're going to get citadels. Unfortunate, broadside Nakamov doesn't take any damage. It's tricky, okay? Lauria is nowhere near as consistent as Colombo. If you're playing Colombo and you're thinking, wow, I'm going to get an even better version of that with SAP, that is not the case here. Colombo, especially the legendary mod Colombo, is much better than Lauria. However, I think Lauria is more interesting to play. I find Colombo a bit boring with how disgustingly consistent that SAP is. This one's much more interesting to play. Finding those flanks, the speed is really fun. Better concealment here, as well as when it hits, These guns are absolutely incredible. They reload faster too, crucially. They have less DPM overall because, again, you just get double the number of shells on Colombo, but it still is really fun to play with. We had the lock on from Slava in the background there. That's why the dispersion looked so good there, by the way. That wasn't just unlock being better. But sometimes I wonder about that, where if I'm not locked onto the target, in this case, we didn't have any like shells go short bug or anything like that because the target we were locked onto was so far away that maybe the aim assist wasn't applied there. I don't know, I'll have to try that out eventually. But 2 million potential damage gets us to our next heal here, as well as 300,000 damage. Yes, very, very solid example of Lauria. It did take me a while to get this though, okay? We'll take the E here. I think this ship is a little bit too inconsistent to always look this good, to be honest with you. But SAP is not something that they should be buffing the consistency on, okay? This is really, really important. Just because I'm going to complain about Lauria and its somewhat trolly dispersion from time to time, if they gave it more consistent main guns, well, you just have the Colombo effect, right? SAP as an ammo type is a very hard ammo type to balance. It essentially is applying the consistency of high explosive at any angle, at any range, getting you damage, with the alpha damage, or even more alpha damage than armor piercing. That level of consistency is just not okay if you have good consistency on your accuracy. So we have to involve some RNG somewhere. And that's where, traditionally, it was your accuracy was the problem on things like Colombo, things like Lauria. Sometimes you only hit 2 shells on the broadside Worcester. It happens, okay? And while I find that a little bit annoying as someone who wants to shoot the armor piercing into some of these broadsides, it's just simply required because everybody is going to be shooting predominantly SAP out of these ships because that ammo type is just too good. And it's just simply not possible to give this ship more consistent main guns and still have it be somewhat okay to play. It's still not that fun to play against Lauria, to be honest with you. Des Moines there, no chance of angling there because we do just overmatch him everywhere. I've gone a little bit too aggressive on this flank here, but I'm always trying to get myself towards the enemy's strong flank with Lauria. Anytime I was on my team's strong flank, the games just did not go very well. This ship has surprisingly low range, by the way, less than 20 kilometers of range on the main guns. Also leads us to want to play on the enemy's strong flank where we're kiting away. Thanks to our 12.3 kilometer detect, we can just dictate a lot of this engagement. I do get caught quite broadside here. I should have been taking more citadels. Fortunately, it's a GK. Any better battleship with consistent dispersion probably would be citadeling us here. And overall, this is definitely a ship worth getting. It is a unique playstyle. It does not have the same characteristics of something like a Colombo, but it is still a SAP ship, and you can only get it through steel, usually. This event having a Lauria as an option for those who don't have a lot of steel, I think is really, really cool. Make sure you're waiting until the end of this event. That's the end of last week of update 15.2, where you can still grind out the last few missions to see if you actually get enough of these tokens. Remember, it's 42,000 tokens total to actually get the Tempesta Nera. You can top up, of course, something like getting 25,000 tokens. You're still gonna have to pay around 280 or 290,000 coal. If you have a lot of coal, maybe there's options to get multiple of these ships in multiple parties. That's what they're calling the different buckets with this event. For the most part, though, for most people, I think you should just focus on one. But wait, don't just input the tokens hoping you get there. Sometimes life happens. Sometimes you just don't have time to play the game. So wait until the end to see how many tokens you get. And that way, you haven't burnt tokens on a line or a bucket that you have no chance of actually finishing off. When otherwise, you could have saved those tokens and maybe got a slightly cheaper one. The Petro, the Schlieffen are much cheaper than the Lauria is. And there are some other good options with lower tier ships too for things like, I think the cheapest one is closer to 18,000 tokens. So options there. It's a little bit less interesting to me personally with the lower tier, but there are options. Lauria, though, is well worth getting if you're interested at all in a somewhat accurate, good flanking battleship with some absurd consistency on the ammo type. Broadside Des Moines, still we're swapping to that armor piercing. And, you know, it's not like the perfect dispersion. I would have loved a dev strike there, to be honest with you, but it's still really, really good damage, and we get that citadel there. For the second salvo, though, I'm swapping back to SAP. yeah, the AP still would overmatch a Des Moines everywhere. But you know what SAP does, as well as just overmatching through this Des Moines and giving us more alpha damage? SAP does not overpen. So overmatching shells with higher alpha damage than our AP, and no chance of overpens. Yikes, that's scary for a lot of cruisers. You gotta hope that the Lauria gets that trolley dispersion against you. Otherwise, the damage is absolutely ridiculous. Although, it's still not Columbo levels of ridiculous. The entire time playing, I felt like Columbo would have done more here. And as for this build on Lauria, you're mostly going on defense here, since this ship does have just such consistency out of the ammo type here. We want to keep this ship alive. You do, of course, want to go full concealment, 12.3 kilometer detect. We don't, again, our maneuverability here, this turning circle radius and rudder shift time is atrocious. The speed is really nice. So we got to be careful about what situations we place our ship in. Having good concealment is very, very good there. Fire prevention also extremely valuable on this ship, as you can just get burnt down. You can get burst down in a ship like this one. It doesn't have the fast heal cooldowns or anything like that, and you don't have a smoke like you would have on something like the Columbo. I am taking my extra heal here with 2 million potential damage, as I found I could reasonably get that given the armor profile here. And I wanted to free up a 4-pointer skill to take Furious. Yes, get a little bit extra DPM there. 457s with a base 30-second reload is fine. But, you know, when you think about 457s and good concealment with very powerful ammo, you may be thinking about Thunderer, right? Is this just the Italian Thunder? Kind of. But Thunder gets a faster base reload. Something like Ohio also has a faster base reload too. Of course, we're also going with Adrenaline Rush, and I went Turret Traverse here. Taking Reload mod makes the Turret Traverse a little bit worse, although you have a base Turret Traverse of 30 seconds, which is kind of ridiculous for 457s, to be honest with you. But, you know, taking Reload mod nerfs that down just a little bit more. I really liked having the fast Turret Traverse. And Brisk is extremely valuable in some situations, but I found this ship to be quick enough already that I didn't need it. Of course, go Gunfeeder. Please go Gunfeeder. I don't understand why Gunfeeder is not recommended here. The AP is still worth you. Please don't just spam SAP. Oh, everybody's just going to spam SAP. I know. I should have spammed more SAP. Honestly, the bad salvos that I was having in some of these games that I wasn't showing you, I was trying to make the AP work way too. I was trying to go for dev strikes, the Shirley opportunities. Nah, just aim up, aim superstructure, aim upper belt, spam the SAP, and you're going to do better. It's very annoying to me as someone who prefers a little bit more nuanced gameplay, who prefers that angled ships take less damage, broadside ships take more damage. That's not the case here. Unfortunately. Here is the armor profile. From the bow, yeah, it's a lot of 32, right? So pushing, yeah, you got to worry about that. But a very small superstructure. And suddenly, armor. 120 millimeters of armor plated here. That's wild. That is so good. It's better than some of the German and Soviet battleships deck armor. Small superstructure. Look at this kiting opportunity here. I mean, good luck doing consistent damage into this if you don't hit the shot trap, right? Tons of shot traps here. The stern section here as well. Look at how low this is in the water. It's absolutely absurd how actually thin the stern section of this ship is. Even the bow, very low in the water. So trying to land any sort of consistent salvo against this, it's very, very challenging. Unless, of course, you're flat broadside. You got to hit this middle section here. If you're wondering, you got to hit right in here. Anything further forward and back, it's going to be only slightly above waterline citadel. But yeah, this actually is way above water here. So all those shot traps as well means that you can actually take some bow citadels and stern citadels if you do get a little bit unlucky here. If you overmatch 32 millimeters of armor, you can actually shoot here and get these citadels in here as well. So weird armor profile, but surprisingly tanky when you're angled, especially in a kited position. Here is the equipment I was going with. You could try steering gears. I was trying that a little bit earlier in my play session with Nera here, and it's fine, but the 1,000-meter turning circle radius is still holding you back. Even if you do start turning the ship, its full rudder is not very effective. So we just need to be using speed juking rather than trying to dodge incoming fire with our rudder, or thinking we can turn away from a bad situation because of rudder mod. That isn't going to happen here either. Of course, go with reload. there's an argument for range, okay? Ultra passive games, it could be nice to have that extra little bit of range. There's some copium, better dispersion with longer range too. Well, I say copium. It's legitimate. The more you increase your range, technically the dispersion gets better. It's hard to notice though. We only found that out years ago when there was some data mining done. We actually didn't notice that ourselves. We had to actually look in the data. So not that impactful. Aiming systems though is very impactful. Please use that one. Damage control mod. And then I was going damage control party as well. So Lauria or Tempesta Nera is well worth going for if you don't already have a Lauria and you have the time to grind. Don't start inputting these tokens though. Please, please do not start inputting your tokens. You see, they just keep ticking up. It's not like they're gonna go away. You don't have to use them right away. You have 2 updates, 2 whole updates. Patience and wait and see if 2 months of grinding, you get enough tokens to actually get yourself close to the Tempesta Nera here. And you can always complete it with coal a little bit later. That is very expensive. It's like 673,000 coal to just use coal the entire way through here, getting through all of these stages. So very expensive coal, but if you have a ton of coal laying around, perhaps that's an option for you as well to get multiple in this event. But Lauria is definitely one worth going for. And personally, subjectively, I actually really like this camo. I don't always like the extra things that Wargaming adds to some camos, but I kind of really like this one. So Lauria might end up being played a little bit more by me simply because it looks so cool now. I'm not a big fan of that 1.8 Sigma slight inconsistency there. It's not always. In fact, 1.8 Sigma is fine, especially on battle cruiser dispersion, given the ammo type here. But man, I just want the armor piercing and then the depth strikes, and that is not this ship. This is a sap spammer through and through, just like all of the Italian ships are. So if you're used to that, this could be an interesting flanking option for you, where if you're looking for something that is just as good or better than Colombo, I don't think this is it. Some people might prefer this, but I think overall we can all say that Colombo with its legendary mod is just going to be better, more consistent than the Lauria is. But Lauria is still worth going for, worth getting for steel eventually, or if you don't have steel, this is your opportunity to get essentially a steel ship without spending any steel. I think that is super cool. But let me know what you think in the comments down below about Lauria and of course this event as well. Thank you very much for watching and have a great rest of your day.